The Limo was a strange episode. Not one of my favorites for sure. It was fine. Um, it was just different. A little bit different in the series. Um, but I definitely would say it's not one of my favorites. Not much to really say about it, to be honest. The Fix Up, it's more so like a one-sided story, basically. Um, Jerry and George. Well, George was driving to the airport to pick up Jerry, who was on tour in Chicago. George's car broke down the Belt Highway. So when he picks up Jerry, they have no way of getting back. They could take a cab, but that would be a while until they get a cab. So they see a chauffeur standing there with a sign that says O'Brien. Jerry knew of an O'Brien who did not board a plane because the plane, I guess, was overbooked, I think, or something back in Chicago. So he did not get on the plane, even though apparently the guy argued he needed to be at Madison Square Garden, which at the time, they didn't know that. So instead of just waiting for a cab, they thought, oh, just to get a ride back into Manhattan, they'll pose as this O'Brien guy and his colleague. So George calls himself Colin O'Brien, but just says O'Brien. And Jerry poses as Dylan Murphy. The guy buys it. They get in the car and in the limo, and they're heading to Manhattan. I think it's just a little ride to take them in there. So they're talking, and they pull out the window and ask the limo driver, "Where are you taking us?" "Oh, to Madison Square Garden. We have your 4 passes." Jerry and George realizes that that's the Knicks Bulls game is taking place at Madison Square Garden that night. So they think they're going to a Knicks game. And they call up Elaine and Kramer from the limo to tell them to meet them at the corner of Jerry's block in a few minutes, and they'll pick them up. They'll go to ride to the Knicks game in a limo. But obviously that's not the plan. So they stop by and say the other 2 people getting your 4 passes, we're still getting them. So they pick them up, and it's a woman named Eva and a guy named Tim, who were supposed to be bodyguards for O'Brien. They realize now, they figure out that the O'Brien they're talking about is a guy named Donald O'Brien, who is a neo-Nazi who has like a newsletter that he writes. And obviously, he was very pro-Hitler and such. Basically, he was coming to do some type of like a rally, do a speech at the rally. And it was the first time people have ever seen O'Brien in person. The thing also is, though, is they don't know what O'Brien looks like. But of course, Tim and especially Eva is a huge fan of O'Brien's work, and she was just like obsessed. So George, of course, was trying to keep things casual. He says, "What'd you think of my book?" Even though he again has no clue what she's talking about. Luckily, also, Eva had a fax of his speech where he's going to be making at the rally, which George reads and feels completely disturbed and uncomfortable. Obviously, realizing where they're at, what the hot water got themselves into, they still are heading into the city to get Kramer and Elaine. They're trying to think of a way out of it because, again, like George feels uncomfortable. He's not Donald O'Brien. He's not making some speech. He's not going to be like the head center of attention at a protest. He feels very uncomfortable about that. So they then, of course, while they're heading over there, Kramer and Elaine are at the station, or at the corner waiting to be picked up. Of course, Kramer starts questioning, why are they in a limo? Of course, it's in a couple episodes, in the span of a few episodes, this is pretty much starting to become Kramer's thing. He asks a lot of questions, and no one's like, "Kramer, don't worry about it, it's no big deal." But why? He kept asking, why? He starts assuming that he knows about the protest, and there's a limo. He starts to assume that maybe Jerry is secretly Donald O'Brien this whole time, and we didn't know it. He thought that Jerry is very mysterious, this and that. And then Elaine runs into a friend of hers named Dan, who says he's going to the rally. Elaine says they're going to the Knicks Bulls game. So they're almost there when they get a flat tire. At first it sounded like a gunshot, which then reveals that they're bodyguards because Tim and Eva says, "Don't worry, if anybody wants to mess with us," they pull out their guns, which always makes them feel more uncomfortable. But of course, while Tim's outside taking care of that, Eva's like just over top of George, just like so, possessed by him and just attracted to his writing and everything. And George, although finds Eva attractive, knows that he's in big trouble. So then they pick up Elaine and Kramer. First, Kramer mixes up, because they told them to call them O'Brien and Murphy. They get them mixed up as to who was supposed to be who. At first he calls Jerry O'Brien and George Murphy. Then they get a phone call just in the midst as they're showing up at the protest at MSG, and protesters are like banging on the limo. Obviously, again, because it's just not a dangerous environment. That's why I personally stay away from protests and such. But then they get a phone call from the actual O'Brien. And then, of course, now Tim and Eva want answers. They're like, okay, who are you guys now, blah, blah, blah. And they're just rapidly, telling their sides of the story. And then once they're done, Eva screams, "Get out!" So they get out of the limo. And then the last scene was the news team with George on screen. And on the bottom, it says Donald O'Brien. And he's just screaming out, "I'm not O'Brien! I am not O'Brien! I am not O'Brien!" So this time it was big time dumb luck that really bit them in the butt. They tried to, steal someone else's limo, and it just really bit them back in the butt because it was part of a big, it was a part of a big deal, part of a big protest. And yeah, I think Jerry and George really learned their lesson on this one for sure. This one I can't call it dumb luck. This was stupid luck for sure. I don't know if I want to say it. The only fun facts I have about this is the woman who played Eva, which, by the way, apparently Eva was supposed to be, was picked because after Eva Braun, who was the lover of Hitler, the love interest of Hitler, and also she was played by Suzanne Snyder, who would eventually appear again in season 5 in the episode The Pie as Poppy's daughter / Jerry's girlfriend Audrey. They would appear there. What else is there really? Not much really, other than like Larry David saying this was a writer Mark Jaff's idea, which Mark just had the idea of Jerry and George stealing a limo, but they didn't know where to go from there. After talk, they said, what if it's for like a neo-Nazis limo or something like that, like a protest. That's basically it. Like I said, not one of my favorite episodes for sure. I mean, it's okay, but it's just strange. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm not really into like history or like that environment and whatnot. So maybe reason why I'm not the biggest fan of this episode, which is it's whatever. Next though is another one of my favorites. Next up is The Good Samaritan, and all I can say is you are so good looking. And nope, sadly, my girlfriend's not here, so I'm not saying it to her, but I would definitely say it to her. But that's a tease for what is next. We get to The Good Samaritan in the next video. So until then, guys, what are your thoughts on the Limo episode of Seinfeld? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And be sure as always to slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content to my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well, at TheManAirboy93. Till then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll see you all later. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out, everybody.